Razer's Blade 18 is the first gaming laptop to get Thunderbolt 5 support. And along with other new changes, it's also got 2 new screen options this year, including the mini LED panel I've got here. It's a 2560 by 1600 300Hz mini LED screen, but you can also spend more to get the 3840 by 2400 200Hz panel. That one is not mini LED though. The mini LED screen can only reach 300Hz with Optimus off when run by the NVIDIA discrete graphics. If you have Optimus on, then it's limited to 240Hz, which I suspect is a limitation of Intel's integrated graphics. The mini LED screen looks good with high color gamut and decent brightness. We measured over 700 nits with HDR enabled, as per the red line, but still over 500 nits in SDR mode. Many other gaming laptops with mini LED screens were brighter than the Blade 18. ASUS's Sky 18 actually has the same panel according to hardware info, and with HDR enabled, they're about the same brightness. The Sky 18 can get brighter in SDR mode though, and that's because unlike the Blade, the Sky gives you more control over how the lighting zones work. Screen response time was decent. For a 300Hz panel, ideally we want transitions to occur within the 3.33 millisecond refresh window, and we're not too far away from that on average. It's in line compared to a number of other 18-inch laptops tested, but not quite as fast compared to last year's Blade 18. Though that said, less than a millisecond difference is well within the margin of error range. I've found the exact same panel in 2 different laptops to vary by as much as 3 milliseconds. So this small difference is probably just the panel lottery. Anyway, what matters is it's fast enough, and doesn't suffer the same issue as MSI's more expensive Titan 18, where the backlighting takes longer to light up. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in Counter-Strike 2. This year's Blade 18 is the fastest result that we've recorded so far in this test, and slightly ahead of the 18-inch competition. But again, this is within the margin of error range, and most people won't notice a 1 or 2 millisecond difference. They're all fast here. This is the first gaming laptop I've ever had with Thunderbolt 5, found on the right Type-C port. Based on this image from Intel, I expected this to mean 140 watts of charging was the minimum, with up to 240 watts being a possibility. But according to Razer's own website, both Type-C ports max out at 100 watts. But then older information Razer provided at CES mentions 240 watt charging, so I'm not sure which is correct. And unfortunately, I don't yet have a USB Type-C charger powerful enough to fully test it out. Though considering how big and heavy this thing is, a slightly smaller charger probably isn't going to make that much overall difference. As for Thunderbolt 5, that means we either get up to 80 gigabit per second of bandwidth bidirectionally, or 120 transmit and 40 receive. This is 2 to 3 times more bandwidth compared to Thunderbolt 4. And while this means you can connect more screens at higher refresh rates and higher resolutions, it should also mean a significant improvement for external graphics enclosures, or eGPUs. Limited bandwidth between the laptop and external graphics is the #1 reason that I don't think eGPUs are particularly viable. So then, does Thunderbolt 5 fix this problem? Well, I can't answer that right now either, because there still aren't any Thunderbolt 5 eGPU enclosures available. So although this is the first laptop with Thunderbolt 5 and it's available now, there just still aren't any Thunderbolt 5 devices currently available that I can test it with. So it's just something that I'm going to have to look at in depth in a future video. Make sure you're subscribed. The new Blade 18 uses Intel's latest 14th gen processor, so let's find out if this actually makes a difference. We're getting just a 2% boost as single and multi-core performance in Cinebench R23 when compared to last year's Blade 18 with 13th gen processor. ASUS's Sky 18 on the other hand was able to score 15% higher in multi-core performance. Not bad considering both the Sky 18 and Blade 18 almost weigh the same. Performance lowers a fair bit when running the same tests without the charger connected. So battery power. Last year's Blade 18 was a little ahead in multi-core, but worse off when it came to single core. ASUS's cheapest Sky 18 on the other hand was scoring 63% better in multi-core now. But at least the Blade wasn't the worst 18-inch gaming laptop now. Battery life didn't last as long compared to last year's Blade 18 either, at less than 4 hours, despite both having the same sized battery. This might be due to the mini LED screen in the 2024 model, which ASUS's Scar 18 also has, and that lasted for the same amount of time with a similar sized battery. None of the 18-inch gaming laptops have particularly impressive battery life though, especially compared to some of the smaller Ryzen options. Wi-Fi also gets an upgrade to the latest Wi-Fi 7 this year. Unfortunately, upgrading to a Wi-Fi 7 router means I can't fairly compare last year's Blade 18 results, but it's similar to other recent Wi-Fi 7 capable laptops, and a decent boost over the last gen 6E found in the Scar 18. Alright, we need to get into the game results, because they're kind of weird. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with our own custom test run, and I've got the Blade 18 shown by the red highlight. The performance isn't great at 1080p, considering it's right next to an RTX 4070 laptop that's gone on sale for $1,000 in the past, less than a quarter of the price of the Blade. It's performing about the same as the smaller Blade 16 with same specs, and basically it's because the CPU power limit just doesn't get as high in these thinner laptops. It's kinda suspicious that last year's Blade 18 with lower tier RTX 4080 was ahead. Both laptops were maxing their processors out at 65 watts, but the RTX 4080 was running with 145 watts of power, while the 4090 was limited to just 125 watts. Now, you can't actually buy the Blade 18 with a 1080p screen anyway, so you probably won't have many reasons to lower the resolution and get this lower performance. At 1440p, this year's Blade 18 with 4090 is much closer to last year's cheaper 4080. The Blade 18 is available with a QHD Plus screen, so at least in this game, the extra money for the 4090 doesn't appear worthwhile. And there are still other 4080 laptops that are competitive for less money. It's only at 4K where we see the RTX 4090 get put to work, finally now ahead of all the RTX 4080 results. That said, in some cases, the difference isn't that big, but it's only a few FPS lower compared to the best 4090 results. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark, and like Cyberpunk, at 1080p, it's close to this year's smaller Blade 16 with the same CPU and GPU. Last year's Blade 18 with 4080 also beats it here too. Though, to be fair, I did test that about a year ago at this point, so it's difficult to do a perfectly fair comparison, as it's just not possible for me to get it again. The smaller Blade 16 was still ahead at the higher 1440p resolution, but hey, at least the cheaper 4080 Blade 18 from last year was now behind. But again, not by much. The gap gets larger at the higher 4K resolution, as the GPUs can better stretch their legs, so to speak. The bigger 18-inch size doesn't appear to give it any extra performance though, as the smaller Blade 16 is once again about the same. Control is fairly GPU heavy, even at 1080p, so the 4090 Blade 18 is finally ahead of last year's 4080 Blade 18. At 1440p, it's very close to the smaller Blade 16 again, at least in average FPS. The larger Blade 18 has a higher 1% low, as it was able to sustain a 60 watt power limit, while the Blade 16 was running at 45 watts in the same test. The bigger Blade 18 still has a better 1% low result at 4K, but the average FPS result is more or less the same between our RTX 4090 laptops now, with like a 5 FPS difference between the best and worst. So to get the most out of the Blade 18 with RTX 4090 graphics, it makes sense to go for the 4K 200Hz screen. But for the QHD Plus mini LED screen, it doesn't really make much sense to go above the RTX 4080, so might as well save the money. Razer doesn't actually let you configure the Blade 18 with an RTX 4080 and 4K screen, so you have to get the 4090. You can get the 4090 with the QHD Plus screen, but based on our game benchmarks, that's not really worth $800 extra, as the 4080 wasn't too different at 1440p. Here are the 3D Mark results, if that's something you care about. As for content creation, it's basically the same as last year's 4080 Blade 18 in DaVinci Resolve, and similar to the smaller Blade 16 with same CPU and GPU in Adobe Premiere and Photoshop. Meanwhile, in Blender, it acts the same as pretty much any other 4090. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And if the Blade 18 does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales, so make sure that you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop. At the time of recording, the new 2024 Blade 18 starts at $3,100 for the lowest spec configuration with RTX 4070 graphics. The configuration that we've tested in this video goes for $4,500, which is actually the same amount last year's 13th gen model launched at, but that didn't have a mini LED screen, Thunderbolt 5, or Wi-Fi 7. Or if you're a total baller, you can go another $300 to fully max it out with 64 gigs of RAM and a 4TB SSD. For comparison, ASUS's Scar 18 with mini LED screen and RTX 4090 graphics is $3,900, while MSI's Titan 18 with way more RAM is $5,400. Crazy stuff. Honestly, for most people, you could probably save the $600 and go for ASUS's Scar 18 instead of the Blade 18. They weigh about the same and battery life is about the same, but the Scar performs a bit better in games, particularly at lower resolutions where it can run with a higher CPU power limit. It doesn't really matter at 1440p, and then at 4K there's basically no difference between most of the 4090s. And the Scar also has better CPU performance, whether we're talking about charger connected or disconnected. The mini LED screens are similar, but the Scar's gets brighter while the Blade's goes up to 300Hz. But that didn't really result in a massive response time difference. The Blade also gets you the newer Wi-Fi 7, but you could probably upgrade that in the Scar 18 yourself for not too much money. Now, this bit's personal preference, but I think the build quality and just look and feel of the Blade 18 is a bit more premium compared to the Scar 18. This thing is all metal while the Scar is a plastic interior. But at the end of the day, all the benefits I've mentioned in favor of the Blade 18 just don't really seem worth spending the extra money for compared to the Scar 18, unless you really need that new Thunderbolt 5 or something. Everything else about the Blade 18 is pretty much the same as last year's version. So rather than repeating myself, you can check out last year's video over here next if you need any other info on it. And if you're after an 18-inch gaming laptop but don't want to break the bank to this degree, then check out Alienware's M18R2 over here next. It's a full $1,000 less compared to the Blade, while still offering similar performance in games. I'll see you in that one next.